You want me to put that on my Tudor?
Harry's wife. What would Trevor Engleson say? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Trevor Engleson was the first, or second husband, of Harry's wife, depending on who you ask. This means, in my lexicon, he had the status of intimate partner primary source. Thus, he was seduced, drawn in, probably with flattery, spicy poontang, being told how wonderful he was, and then, once ensnared, sustained evaluation came about. Undoubtedly, he would have been triangulated with other people, probably cheated on, subjected to insults, circular conversations, temper tantrums, pity plays, similar mid-range behaviours such as silent treatments, and then he was disengaged from. Unfortunately for him, it was recorded that she sent the ring back to him. It was suggested, of course, that whilst he was in Los Angeles and she was in Toronto, that the distance was too great, but he was the one that was shuttling backwards and forwards. See parts pass him where I've analysed that. He tried to keep the marriage going, but ultimately he was used and then disengaged from, the fate of many intimate partner primary sources. He has largely remained silent about the way that he's been treated, other than comments about being treated as if he was something on the bottom of a shoe. But there hasn't been any detailed interview. Undoubtedly, people have probably tried to get him to conduct an interview about his time married to Harry's wife. He, of course, now is happily married to somebody else, and I believe the individual concerned is a wealthy heiress. So all seems to have turned out rather nicely for Trevor. But what would Trevor say about recent events? Well, undoubtedly, he will have been hurt, upset, confused and bewildered at his treatment. Having gone through the sustained devaluation, he would not understand what he was dealing with. He wouldn't understand why she would blow hot and cold with him, why she would say the things that she did, how nothing seemed to make her happy any longer. He wouldn't have understood why she'd ended the relationship, and why she did so in such a callous fashion in terms of sending back the ring to him. He would have gone through confusion, hurt, anger, and some bitterness as he wrestled with why the marriage ended, undoubtedly trying to get answers out of family, friends, possibly even speaking to therapists. But he has not been motivated, yet at least, to tell his side of the story. There have been rumours that he might write a book, and, in some respects for him to do so, he may well find cathartic, and he's moved on. It's not as if, like some victims do, he still harps back to the days when it was the golden period and that he misses her. I suspect that in many instances he barely gives a thought to her, now focused upon his new wife and that new world. And there would be many that would say that that's where he should remain. And of course, as a victim of a narcissist, he should impose a total no-contact regime. Therefore, he shouldn't have anything to do with her physically, never communicate with her, not do things in relation to her, for instance, read magazine articles about her, watch interviews about her, not talk about her with anybody else, and avoid thinking about her. However, given the level of prominence that she experiences, there is a difficulty for Trevor Engleson in completely avoiding her. And undoubtedly, friends and family will have asked him, what do you think about all of this? What do you think about her marrying Prince Harry, etc.? It might be that people that he's working with have wanted to know what was she really like. And I suspect that he has chosen to keep matters private and simply say to them, that's not something that I want to talk about. And they have respected that boundary when he has asserted it. But if he were to speak out about the way that he's been treated, I can safely say that what he would reveal would be exactly the dynamic that I described to you between narcissist and intimate partner primary source victim. He would have explained that in the beginning he thought he'd met his soulmate, that he was bedazzled by her, that she gave him plenty of sex, that she flattered him, that she made him feel very much loved. And then it changed. The silences, the false accusations, the tantrums. And no doubt he will have a long list of instances where, behind closed doors, away from that facade, she shouted at him, insulted him, belittled him, where she accused him of having affairs when he did not do so, that she accused him of flirting with women when he did not do so, that she would accuse him of thinking more about his work than her, that where she was struggling to get work, she would say that it was as a consequence of him not being interested. Time and time again, her own failings would be projected onto him. He, of course, may also be able to share some information about the various speculations that have been made. For instance, what was the position with regard to children? They never had children. Is it right that she'd had a hysterectomy? And did he know about that? There's a rumour in that regard that he was aware of the fact that she'd had a hysterectomy and could not bear children. Would that be something that he would be willing to confirm in print? Possibly. Might he also shed light on other aspects of her life, the allegations that she was a yacht girl, the hazing incident, and so forth? Was he privy to such information? Many victims of the narcissist, in the immediate aftermath, want to obtain their revenge over the narcissist, and in such circumstances, they want to tell the world, as far as the world will listen, what this person is really like. Of course, there was sufficient time that had elapsed between when she disengaged from Trevor and when she became more prominent through becoming Harry's girlfriend and then Harry's wife. It would be a different story, I believe, if Harry had taken her away from Trevor Engleson, or rather, she had been conducting an affair with Harry behind Mr. Engleson's back. In that instance, hurt and wanting to lash out, Mr. Engleson may well have given interviews telling his side of the story. As it is, he has had time for any emotional thinking that might have existed to be reduced through the passage of time following their divorce. It may also be, of course, that he recognises the benefit of not talking about her in terms of his own recovery and moving forward to freedom. He may well have been counselled by a therapist in that regard. One thing that many people would think would perhaps coax him to have something to say about her would be the prospect of making a lot of money by writing a book and undertaking interviews, because people would certainly be interested in what happened to him, what their life was like, and, of course, if he's able to shed any light on the juicy details that I've been referring to. The fact that he's involved with somebody wealthy means the necessity of him doing this becomes much reduced. But if his circumstances financially were different, that may well be sufficient to compel him to go down that road. Privately, he will say that he is so much better off without her. Privately, he will say that she was a horrible human being that badly treated him. He might not know that she's a narcissist, but he will know that she was abusive, self-centered, self-absorbed, and did not contribute to the relationship equally. He will actually derive a degree of satisfaction at the public hammering that she receives, because he will have seen the behaviours himself and been on the receiving end of them firsthand. It's also likely that he would have sympathy for Harry, because he would recognise what Harry's going through as a consequence of what he went through, albeit not upon a forensically examining stage as the way that Harry has it, given the greater level of prominence of the Sussexes compared to the Engleson union. It would also be interesting to learn what members of the family, the Engleson family, had to say. As Tom Bauer touched upon, they didn't really see her in the rosiest of views. But for Mr. Engleson, he now would undoubtedly, as many victims do, because he can't escape the coverage of her, derive a degree of satisfaction that things are unravelling for her. And, most likely, His overriding thought in all of this, if he were not minded to speak out by way of providing some kind of book, would be simply to say, thank God it's not me. Thank God I was put to one side when I did, and that it ended the horror that I had to endure. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.